people to go through a war game, all these different potential means by which that explosion could have occurred, and let's go through some consequence management exercises to maybe just recertify some of these oil platforms. And then once again, let's move on. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. And I'll give you a great example. You know, when you're in the United States military and you go out on a training exercise, a live fire training exercise, you have, you know, a firing incident. You know, I was in the artillery, and let's say a round gets fired out of safe. You know, you don't say, okay, that's it, we're never going to shoot artillery again in the Army. You sit back and you go back and you look at, okay, what went wrong? You know, how can we resolve it? You look at the crew that was responsible for that firing incident. They go back through retraining, and then you get right back to firing the artillery because you got to continue to train and hone your skills as artilleryman, or, you know, with your tank firing or your mechanized infantry firing or what have you. So that's what I look at. I mean, it is not about running away from the situation or the problem. It is about resolving the problem, coming up with viable solutions, and applying those so that you can continue on. The last thing we just don't need is to put more Americans out of work, which I think is the Governor General's concern and the concern of the people in Louisiana.
Absolutely. Speaking of job loss, unemployment and the budget deficit continue to be two of the major problems plaguing our economy, despite Congress authorizing over $800 billion for Mr. Obama to stimulate the economy. What are some of the steps you intend to ask for as a member of Congress to fix our economy?
Well, I think, you know, when you look at the jobs report that came out a couple Fridays ago, that's indicative of what's happening in our economy, where, you know, 411,000 new jobs created in a month, but 90% of them are temporary government type of jobs, only 10% private sector. So what we have to do, you know, first and foremost, I think that we've got the wealth of the American people has to come back to their pockets and not to the bureaucrats up in Washington, D.C. We're seeing an exorbitant amount of growth in the federal government and the public sector outpacing the private sector by 14%. So I think one of the first things is this progressive tax system we have has to go away. I believe in a flat tax. I think 13 to 14% income tax, you know, personal income tax and no deductions. I think, you know, anywhere from about 16 to 18% corporate business tax rate. So now we bring jobs back to America. We start hiring Americans and stop outsourcing. I think that when you look at the capital gains, dividends, or death tax, those need to just be eliminated, go away. If you want to stimulate an economy, I think we ought to suspend payroll taxes for a period. But on top of that, all of those measures don't mean anything if we don't address the growth of government. And one of the things I look at is the second biggest growth of government has come since 1970 on, and we ought to have a 15% across-the-board cut on the federal government right now. And then we can come back after that, and we can look at, you know, with a more of a surgical, scalpel look is, you know, what are definitively some of the major agencies and programs that have not lived up to what they're supposed to do. You know, it's Department of Energy with a $25 billion budget, and, you know, we are more so dependent upon foreign oil resources than we were when the department was first created. So, I mean, that's one of the type of things we have to look at. We have to stop reinforcing failure, because that is what I see as the biggest problem with the federal government, and we got to reduce it. And I tell you something, Marie, that a lot of people don't understand is that when you look at the fact that as a senator or a member of the House, you know, 5 years is all it takes for you to be vested for your retirement at age 62. You'll get 80%. That's insidious. Wow. You know. Wow. It's crazy. It took me 22 years to get 55% of my retirement, and I was in 3 combat zones. So I think that there's a little inequity there that we have to start looking at, and that's why I believe you got to have term limits. You got to get those things under control with the compensation of our elected officials, because too many people are going up there to just become fat cats. So those are the type of things I think we have to start looking at, and that's within the first 90 days when the new Congress comes in 2011.
And I pray that you will be there, sir. I do. Tell us about the Iraq Veterans for Congress PAC. What are they about, and how did you become involved with them?
Well, it's a great group of, it started back in the last election cycle, 2008, when they looked at, the Iraq vets who were coming out and running on conservative principles, running on a platform of victory and not surrender, but having the right solutions in victory there in Iraq and then also in Afghanistan. So we were able to get a couple of members of that group into Congress in 2008, Duncan Hunter, I think the third, and also Tom Rooney. And so now they're looking at, I came within 5 points of making it, so that's why I'm back to try to seal the deal this time. But they're going to have a really nice event Monday, June the 21st in New York City aboard the USS Intrepid. It's a fundraising dinner. I'll be up there for that. But it comes back to right now you're seeing the greatest amount of veterans running for elected office since World War II. Because once again, it's that call to serve and it's a call to continue to honor the oath that you took to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And I think that's what the Iraq Vets for Congress is all about. It really has picked up a lot of steam since 2008. So you got that group. You got another group of Vets for Freedom, which is, as I mentioned, I'm in their top 10 of endorsees. So I think there's some great things happening right now. The American people are looking at those folks who have taken off their uniform, put on a suit and tie, and continue to serve.
Absolutely. Speaking of, how can those of us who are so eager for the sort of conservative leadership that you will bring to Congress follow you and support your campaign? Tell us about all of the websites, including the new one, and what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to www.gowest2010.com, and as you just mentioned, Marie, we just updated the website. Still the same old ugly face, but it's a better-looking website, and great accessibility to information. And we've got so many videos and podcasts of interviews like this one we're doing right now that we can link people to so that they can spread that message. Go to our issues page and everything. And Facebook for us is growing. I mean, we're getting close to 25,000 following us on Facebook, Twitter. So it's just, like I said, it floors me, to see what is happening. And it's truly a blessing from God. There's no way that anyone can explain what is happening. Our fundraising is going absolutely phenomenal. We're probably the top fundraising congressional campaign in the country. And we're going to continue to build that because it's important to get that message out in those final 60 days. Absolutely important. So, I just thank you from the bottom of my heart. And, I already told my folks every month we're going to do a regular interview with you.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate you making yourself available to us. I also want to mention for our listeners that Alan does have an opt-in text service so that if you text, I believe it's 777-111, you will be updated via text when he's on TV. All of the major appearances that he makes, you will receive a text. Alan, I thank you for being with us today. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to having you on monthly. I appreciate that you've made yourself available to us, so we will let people know the dates. But thank you for being with us, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Marie. God bless you and the listening audience. And even after we win, we will continue that once-a-month program, okay?
Thank you so much, sir. Really appreciate it.
All right.
I want to remind our audience that this morning we've had the distinct pleasure of interviewing Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, who is a congressional candidate for Florida's District 22. I hope that you will listen tonight as we interview South Carolina Senator Jim DeMint. He will be with us